to change of pace, but we could just walk and I'll start whenever the spirit possesses me, I suppose.
We need a gimbal rig.
Also, you can move the camera around as much as you're. I'm trusting you on creative direction.
That's bold.
It's not bold. I trust your choices.
Bold.
But yeah, I moved to Chicago for my graduate studies about 6 months ago or something. And I think that when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time not talking to people. I spent a lot of time very isolated. And I mean, that did have a lot to do with like the socioeconomic conditions of me and of the country that I lived in. But even when I went to undergrad, it was, I think that first week of freshman year, for like pretty much just about anyone, it hits. First year of college in the United States hits like crack for any teenager, really. Because it's kind of like you meet all these new people and you get to form this new identity, and it's a lot of fun and games and just talking for hours and staying up all night in different people's rooms. But then what happens after like a few weeks, hell, even days sometimes, is, those friendships do start to fade away a little bit. And I think that the more time passes, the more those friendships that like at some point felt super intense and super important to you suddenly don't feel like that anymore. I mean, I've been out of undergrad for a year and a half now, and there's so many people that I met there that I thought, oh yeah, this is like someone that's going to be in my life forever, and someone who's going to be super important to me. And it turns out they're not. They're people I haven't spoken to ever since. I mean, aside from a handful of people, I don't really talk to people that I met there that often. You really talk to those people a lot, and I wanted really badly when I got here. I was like, I'm gonna be more focused on building a community and meeting people, and the only way to do that is by being vulnerable. I've been hurt in friendships and relationships before, and I got bullied when I was a child. I mean, look at me. Of course, I got bullied as a child, and so yeah, I decided, getting hurt, it's an important part of life. So I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna go, and I'm gonna be vulnerable, and I'm gonna get hurt, and it'll be fine. And I think started watching a lot of people online. I started reading a lot of things that were talking about community and the benefits of these things. And the way that they talk about getting hurt is so interesting to me, because the way that they talk about getting hurt is almost like it doesn't mean anything when you get hurt, right? It's just fine. It's okay. And I think I started consuming so much of that stuff that at a point I was like, yeah, getting hurt doesn't mean anything. Getting hurt is like totally fine, You get hurt and, you get bruises, right? You get bruises, so you move on. You move on, right? It's natural, and it's totally okay, and it's a good thing to get hurt, to get trauma and all these things. Because it makes you a better, stronger person, right? That's the only way you can grow, is if you make mistakes, and it's if you get hurt. And so when I came here, I really did carry that mentality, like, close to me. I thought to myself, yeah, I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna put, like, my heart and soul into everything I do. I'm gonna, put myself out there and talk to way more people and do way more things, and I did. But the thing is that, bruises aren't scars, and vice versa. Scars aren't bruises either, So it's it's funny because when we talk about getting hurt, especially in this context of like you need to get hurt to grow, we talk about it almost like it's a bruise, right? And bruises, it's like you don't usually remember where each bruise came from. I remember being a child and going to school and being like coming back home and my knees and like arms would be riddled in bruises, and my parents would be like, where the hell did you get those? Why do you have bruises on your knees, And I didn't know the answer, because the things that caused those bruises were so minimal in the grander scope of my day that I was like, it doesn't matter. It didn't even register. And, in a few days, maybe a week sometimes, maybe a couple of weeks, depending on how large the bruise was, it would go away. It would go away and it'd be fine, and it was on to the next thing, on to the next bruise, right? But that's the thing, when you get bruised, it feels like the way that people talk about getting hurt, It's like this thing that you recognize, like, oh wow, I got hurt. I didn't even notice that happened, but on to the next thing, on to the next day, and it's fine. But scars, you know where they came from. You know how it happened. You know why it happened. You know who did that to you. And it's something that you don't just make that light of it. Scars are something that really stick with you for a while. And I think that that's something that I definitely overlooked when I was sort of like changing this personal philosophy of mine about how I wanted to engage with the world and with other people. I knew that, staying in just like my own little circle and like not going outside and not talking to people and not putting myself at risk was probably a bad thing. It was definitely a bad thing for my mental health and also for my professional health, for my professional shit, I guess. It wasn't helpful in any way. So I was like, I do need to put myself out there. I do need to build a community. I do need to risk getting hurt, because I'm not going to grow as a person unless I get hurt. But I definitely failed to overlook. I overlooked the fact that bruises are not scars. So when you get a bruise, when you come home from school and you got a bruise, it's like, whatever, I got a bruise, If something leaves you with a scar, again, you know why that happened. You know what's causing that. You know that it was bad. But scars, can be treated. They can be treated, I don't know, like for example, I fell down a lot. I fell down a lot as a kid. I think most kids tend to do that. And sometimes you fall down in a really bad place and, you scrape your knee wide open and it leaves a little scar. And it's fine. It's fine at the end of the day, because you just wash it out, clean it, and then that scar maybe lasts for a couple days. Even when it's bad, sometimes if it's a scar you have for your whole life, you can get it treated, and it'll be fine. But there's some things I don't know how to treat. So, like, I don't know. If I fell down, I get a scab, I know how to fix that, But if I, get stabbed, for example, I don't really know what to do about that. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do if I get stabbed. I don't know how to fix it. And then it's just gonna grow and it's just gonna get infected and disgusting and terrible, and it'll just stay there. And I'll have this constant sort of memory of what caused it, And I think that's the thing about getting hurt. It's like, you can look at getting hurt as an experience and think to yourself, you know what? I'll be fine. I'll be fine, because nothing that bad will ever happen to me. I'll get over it. And you do. You do. I hope we all do. I hope we all make it. But sometimes things can hurt you in a way that it's not just a bruise. It doesn't just last a couple of days. It doesn't just last a couple of months. It lasts it can last the rest of your years on this planet, you know. And it's really tricky because you don't always know when those are coming. You don't know that it's gonna happen. And being open to getting bruised kind of means, oh, the wind is really picking up. I gotta turn my back. I gotta turn my back to the wind to sort of make the audio not sound like shit here. You never know when scars are coming, but if you're not open enough to being hurt, if you're not open enough to even being bruised, then you're never gonna get a scar. But if you're not open to getting a scar, they'll probably never get a bruise either. So it's very tricky because you don't really get to pick and choose the kinds of pain that you receive. You just get to choose whether you receive pain or not, and even that is an overstatement. I'm at least just talking about social situations and relationships, because, you know, maybe you could get hurt by other things, a family member dies, something like that. That'll happen even if you don't leave your room, you know? Even if you don't talk to people that you normally talk to, that still happens. So, but it is just really difficult, because especially when a scar is fresh and when you don't know what to do with it, it really does just feel like it's never gonna get better. And it feels like it's just gonna bleed into everything else, you know. And maybe you get to a point where you've learned how to deal with this scar well enough that you can hide it from other people, you know, that it's not visible when they first talk to you. I guess in terms of the metaphor, it would be like if you had a scar under your t-shirt, right? No one's gonna know until they take your shirt off. This metaphor is growing fast and loose by the minute. But when you take your shirt off, it's there, right? And then they see it, and then it's like, oh, ugh, you know, maybe you did a good job. Maybe you did a good job at treating it, and it's there, and you talk about it, and it's great, and they're more accepting of the fact that you have that scar on you, and that's totally fine with them, and you talk about it, and you move on. But what if you didn't treat it that well? If it's still kind of, you know, dripping in pus and all these things? What if it's still very sensitive? You know, and the person accidentally provokes it, then what? Then you hurt someone else just because you got hurt? That doesn't exactly seem fair, but it's what happens, and it wasn't fair when you got the scar to begin with, but sometimes it doesn't even get that far, because a person just sees that scar on you and they're like, oh, that's gross, I'm out, you know? So, it's very difficult, because I do really want to meet more people. I do want to meet more people, and I want to make more friends, and I want to make connections that, like, actually mean something and that fill my life with value and that give me some kind of an identity or something. But I don't know. Sometimes you get bruises, and sometimes you get scars, and that's it. You just gotta take it and try your best to take care of those scars and those bruises, and make sure that you're all healed up, so that you never lash out against others, so that you don't end up hurting other people. I guess that that's the only thing that you can do. I don't think this video really had that much of a point, per se, but it is just, I think that when people, like, sort of, I don't know, people that are trying to give advice or, like, self-help gurus and shit like that, talking to you, you know, talking at you, in the case of, you know, making content online, I think that the way they talk about getting hurt is just a little bit, I don't know, not pandering, but demeaning. It's a little demeaning, you know. They're like, yeah, grow up, you know. Are you scared of getting hurt? You know, so what? You're gonna get hurt anyways. But I think when you get hurt, in a way that changes you, I think that then the meaning of the hurt hurt starts to change a bit. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that we should all be nicer to each other and kinder, and yeah, realize that not everyone has the same bad experiences. What are you scared of? Honestly, there's a lot they could be fucking scared of. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Baba Bowie.
Hey believer, am I something that you want? Got my creatures locked away in a pretty little box. Please rewrite me. 2 pages, just a mess of graphite smudge. Start from scratch again, I don't like this one.